responsible investing to me means sustainable investing plus advocacy and field building. Okay. We do a lot of that at Trinity, and there are a lot of peers that do a lot of field building. It's a very collaborative part of the investing landscape and also one of the fastest growing.
Welcome to Market Makers, a podcast that explores the driving forces behind innovation and inclusion in today's economy. I'm Troy Duffie, Director of Financial Markets at the Milken Institute. I don't know how old I was when I realized that churches have endowments, or that they invested for the long term, or that they have the resources to invest in pensions for clergy. In this episode, we spend time with Bhakti Mirchandani, Managing Director for Responsible Investing at Trinity Wall Street, an Episcopal church in Lower Manhattan that was founded in 1697, and at its height, owned some 215 acres in Manhattan. Over the years, they've sold and converted some of their holdings into liquid assets. Bhakti is going to talk us through how they serve their parishioners, the city of New York, and a beloved community. Let's get started.
Hello, my name is Troy Duffie. I'm here with Lenore Champagne-Beirne and Bhakti Mirchandani. We are here discussing inclusive capitalism today. We're super excited to have them. Bhakti is the Managing Director of Responsible Investing at Trinity Church Wall Street. Founded in 1697, Trinity Church Wall Street is full of U.S. and New York history. For example, the churchyard is home to the gravesite of Alexander Hamilton and other historic memorials and monuments, which is pretty cool. In this episode, we will explore the asset allocator, who along with other collaborators has developed tools and guides for sourcing diverse talent, underwriting equitably, and monitoring and engaging fairly. So let's get started. Bhakti, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
It's great to be here. Thank you so much for including me in this important set of podcasts. I'm Bhakti Mirchandani. I've been at Trinity Church Wall Street for almost 4 years. I've been focused on harnessing the capital markets to drive social justice for 25 years, which I'm a little bit embarrassed to admit in terms of longevity of focus. I started off very interested in microfinance in the days before there was no impact investing, and founded the Social Enterprise Club at Harvard College. Set up a UN program when I was in business school focused on microfinance. And then when they started impact investing, I became very interested in that. At the time, I was very focused on Asia because I was, a numbers person. And I thought you can help the most people for the least amount of money in Asia. Yeah. And I even went and moved to Asia. My parents came here 50 years ago with 2 suitcases, and I turned around and went back. Wow. With 2 suitcases, which really surprised them after all the effort that they came.
What part of Asia?
In India, so
okay.
I moved to India, but to a different part than I was from. Got it. And after being there for a couple of years, and enjoying the positive social impact of one of the first impact investment banks, United Capital, I realized that I did miss home, and there's a lot of work to be done in the United States as well, and was very keen to try to do the similar type of work at home.
Yeah. Awesome. It sounds like you've been now for many years really making sense of this idea of impact investing and giving other investors and yourself frameworks for how to do the work. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that looks like today?
Sure. Trinity Church Wall Street has a 3-pronged approach to responsible investing. We take a manager baseline and screen for the future. So we have a 3-pillar framework that we've come up with ourselves. It's based on a lot of the sustainability research. So it's really based on materiality and long-term value creation, and it also aligns with our values. So we look at portfolio sustainability, manager sustainability, and DEI, and we can drill down into any of these that you're interested in drilling down into. And then we strengthen and support manager transitions to sustainability and inclusion. So every year we do a deep dive on an aspect of sustainability and inclusion. So in year 1, it was selecting for and promoting DEI in investment portfolios. Last year it was governance, so issues like geopolitical risk, child labor, and other labor issues, and alignment between GPs and LPs and within GPs. So every year we do that to kind of build capacity of the managers in our portfolio. And we also do that in a bespoke way when managers want to work with us, and about 2/3 of our portfolio has. The last piece of our strategy we call demonstrate and do. Okay. So it's a narrow set of first racial justice focused exclusions and engagement, and we're working to broaden that today just because of all the progress that the faith-based community has made on issues like private prisons and
Right.
guns.
Right.
I was going to say, people don't really think about churches as being investors outside of the allocated community, right? You laid it out that churches have a huge part to play in driving that work forward. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Trinity Wall Street broadly, so for folks who are not familiar with it?
Great. Trinity Wall Street was founded in 1697. In 1705, Queen Anne gave Trinity Church, when it was still the Church of England, a 215-acre land grant. So everything from Fulton Street to Christopher Street, from Broadway to the river.
Wow.
So if you ever look at the streets in the West Village and see how they're all crooked, it's because Trinity anchored everything off the river, and the city anchored everything off of Broadway.
Got it.
We gave away most of that land to other churches.
Okay.
We gave the founding land grant for Columbia University. I could
Wow.
talk for
Wow.
hours about this.
It's amazing.
In 2011, we found ourselves with 15 acres of land,
Okay.
primarily in the Hudson Square neighborhood.
Mhm.
And we realized that Trinity Church would be beachfront property in 100 years.
Wow.
And in that instance, it made sense to diversify. So we started
Right.
unlocking some of the value in our real estate portfolio. We formed a joint venture with Norges and Hines, and we started a pool of diversified managers. Meredith Jenkins was our first internal CIO, and she built a team from scratch.
Wow.
And she's been at it since 2016.
Wow. You joined shortly thereafter. It's 2024 now. So about 4 years after that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, awesome. Tell us how you define responsible investing, not just at Trinity, but you have a award-winning program at Columbia University as well. Tell us a little bit about just responsible investing overall.
So responsible investing to me means sustainable investing plus advocacy and field building.
Okay.
We do a lot of that at Trinity, and there are a lot of peers that do a lot of field building. It's a very collaborative part of the investing landscape, and also one of the fastest growing. And sustainable investing to me means everything from strategic engagement or the investor-investee dialogue on sustainability to ESG integration, systematically incorporating environmental, social, and governance factors into investing, and that's become a very politicized word. There's sustainability-themed investing, there's screens, there's impact investing, so the whole spectrum of those tools falls into sustainable investing, and sustainable investing plus advocacy is responsible investing.
Yeah. I'm curious because some of what you're saying is sort of top down. It's like you as an allocator are defining these frameworks and managers can fit into them or not. And I'm also seeing, as a manager myself, some managers come with new frameworks and new ideas. So I'm curious what you're seeing in the market more broadly. Are managers excited about and eager to engage in the frameworks that you all are defining, or is it more that you are introducing and asking folks to fit in?
We don't ask managers to do anything different than what they're already doing.
Mm.
We try to understand where they are, and we provide ideas and tools. We try to be a thought partner. In some instances, managers are well beyond us. They're incredibly cutting edge in their work, and other times there are specific things that they need to work on. We need to work on things too.
Yeah.
And the tools are just, or the frameworks are just a way for us to understand what they are and what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And if they have a different way to describe things, we just say, we hear this, would you agree with this? And they would just say yes or no, and we kind of move on, and we have a lot of things that we could cover with them.
Yeah, thanks for elaborating on the approach. I think a lot of us are asking, like, okay, but how though? How do we make sure that this makes its way into the way we invest?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there allocators you work with or partner with to kind of think these frameworks through, or is this something that you brought up research, you all have relied on outside research partners to rely on? Like, how have you built it out to think about it more broadly?
We were able to build on significant work that had been done over decades. One of the inputs to our framework on some of the aspects of manager sustainability is a big part of our work, and some of the things like employee ownership. FCLT Global did research showing that 70% of the variation in 5-year net returns is a function of employee ownership. So we spent a lot of time there. Employee development within managers is incredibly important. Crisis management comes from SASB. Business ethics, that comes from SASB. And SASB was an effort by thousands of investors to understand and distill the material sustainability factors that drive long-term value creation.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm hearing a really interesting thread in what you're saying, which is that the net returns are tied to these things that also create impact. So I don't hear you saying, all these frameworks create impact, but there's no returns. And I don't hear you saying there's returns it sounds like you're really playing at the intersection. Is that fair?
We try to, but then I also want to be very clear that when all allocators are trying to pursue the same aspect of sustainability at the same time, it can be overvalued.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a silver bullet.
Yeah.
There are studies that show that sustainability improves returns. There's studies that show that it doesn't, and we just have to understand like no investment tool works in all weathers and in all situations.
Yeah, what a great point. Yeah, thank you.
What's your why, right? Your work has been, you said, defined by this for the last 25 years, right? And so I'm curious as to like what keeps you coming back.
I think it's, so in terms of my why, I really admired my grandfather, and he spent his whole life, he was a doctor, he spent a lot of time educating, he was a medical school professor, and he spent 20% of his time helping the poor. So I thought this is a model of a mensch that I want to be like this, my grandfather, and I was trying to sort between medicine and finance, and then I kind of discovered microfinance, and I've been hooked ever since to this general path that has evolved, much faster than I could have imagined. What keeps me coming back, as I've gotten older and older, I just spend more and more time on a more narrow focus set of things where I have deeper expertise. And it's just that the field is growing so fast. There's so many different levers that need to be pushed at the same time. I spend a lot of time teaching. I teach, I'm now involved in multiple programs at Columbia just because it's so important for students and even people coming back to refresh their careers mid-career. To understand both the financial side and the impact side. And a lot of them have most of the tools, and they're just looking for the right environment, the right ideas to move forward. I think there's a lot that has to be done in terms of explaining the academic research on sustainability to the average investor that doesn't have time to trove through the research. Another area is AI. It's going to affect all of our lives.
Right.
There are a lot of long-term issues with AI safety. There are proximate issues. There are, short-term harms from algorithmic bias, some of the job losses.
Right.
And as investors who are interested in sustainability, we need to think through all of those. I haven't seen a good framework yet because it's so new. But there's just so much to do.
Right.
And they're all so interrelated that I think that it's really important to push on all the levers at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
So maybe in that spirit, because it does sound like you are going really deep, but you're also really intentional about showing up in other places. Where else might we find you building an inclusive economy?
I think maybe one of the most important ways that I'm building an inclusive economy, and you're a parent as well, is by intentionally parenting the next generation who will be here driving change long after we're gone. And my daughter brought home a Ruth Bader Ginsburg book from the book fair because of what I've been reading to her.
My
She's
girls
so proud
are
of it.
interested in her too. It's so fun. Yeah.
So I think that's the most important way that ties to Columbia and kind of sharing with the next generation, and sometimes they're the older generation and they're just back to kind of after successful careers. So it's kind of passing on the tools and also learning a lot from the students. And with IADEI, there's an organization, it's a group of over 800 allocators. That's my colleague Sophia Tsai and I, and then Rob Rabari and Stephanie Weston from University of Rochester co-founded. We're focused on diversity committed and diversity curious LPs, and we do three things. We build allocator capacity, we remove barriers, and we provide access to diverse managers. We maintain the largest open source database of diverse managers.
Wow.
We have pitch sessions every other month where diverse managers pitch in front of anywhere from 100 to 150 LPs. And then we have content sessions where we share best practices from across the industry. We published, I think, 13 or 14 articles that are meant to be tools, just explaining, best practices. And we have a fellowship program that's concluding its first year, where we're it's a small group. It's about 25 CIOs and asset class heads from different endowments and foundations and pensions that are all working to build diversity into their investment portfolios.
Wow.
How can folks get involved with your work, either at Trinity or at I've always said IADEI. Give me the way to say it one more time.
IADEI is great.
Okay. How can folks get involved with the work that you're doing at IADEI or at Trinity?
IADEI.org is our website. So if you're a diverse manager and you're looking to meet allocators, you can add yourself to the database. If you're an LP that wants to, become a member, attend events, or if you have best practices, we'd love to hear a broader set of best practices and share them with the group.
Okay, awesome. Bhakti, thanks so much for joining us. Do you have anything else, Lenore?
No, thanks, Bhakti. It's really exciting to hear about your work.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
That wraps up this episode of Market Makers. Huge thanks to Bhakti Mirchandani for joining us and for sharing her insights on responsible investing and telling us more about the role that Trinity Church Wall Street plays in shaping a sustainable, equitable future. This episode reminded me of part of our goal for this podcast, which is to help shine a light on the way that capitalism intersects with and actually shapes our daily lives. Sometimes those ways are really obvious and other times less so. What I'm taking away from this episode is how asset-owning churches like Trinity Wall Street can hide in plain sight, but subtly shape and actually serve as a model for what's possible. If you enjoyed this conversation with Bhakti, please be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with others who are passionate about the intersection of finance and social impact. You can also follow us on ImpactAlpha and wherever else you listen to podcasts to stay updated on future episodes. We look forward to bringing you more insights from leaders and innovators who are making waves in the world of business and finance. Thanks again for tuning into Market Makers. I'm Lenore Champagne-Beirne, reminding you that responsible investing is not just about returns, it's about creating a better world.